Hello YouTube, welcome back to the channel. We are here with my final thoughts ahead of round 6 of the AFL season. If you've been enjoying the content on the channel this week and through the season, please make sure you like, comment and subscribe. The subscription numbers have been going through the absolute roof. So I wanted to start by saying thank you very much to everyone who has taken the time to subscribe. It really does help push the channel, and I've been loving all the interaction through the comments of all the videos. Part of today's video is I'm going to compile some of the comments that have been coming through that are all sort of similar around strategy ahead of round 6. And I want to get this video out with enough time for you guys to be able to look at your teams before the deadline tonight with Brisbane and Collingwood. What a blockbuster that's going to be. So from a my team perspective, I think I am 100% locking in my side. That is on screen. That means my trades are still as planned. SDK out, Tommy Gross in, Garcia out, Nick Dacos in, which leaves me a grand total of 12K. I don't like leaving such few dollars in the bank, but I think the team is in a really good spot. A couple comments came about the midfield. You know, the last couple of weeks we've gone and brought in Andy Brayshaw. Now we've gone and brought in Nick Dacos. We started with Chera, Oliver, Rosie, Dawson and Ashcroft and Lindsay. So we started with that core, which is really good. And now we're really starting to add those pieces. Obviously, we've done a bit of restructure, taking money out of our defence through Freya and now SDK coming out of the defence. The other big factor I've got this week is the Tom Stewart concern. Now, we've got the emergency on Luke Traynor, which I like. I may have to try and swing some stuff around in order to get Hasty in a line where I won't need him, if that's making sense. Obviously, we've got our vice captain on a Max Gawn this week. If I want to take Max Gawn's score, it means I'm going to have to get a 0 on field somewhere. And I think Campriali I won't be able to loop with because he plays tomorrow afternoon. So I think Hasty might be my only other red dot. The issue I've got with Boyd is DeConing plays before Gawn, which means I can't use Boyd. So I'm in a little bit of looping trouble, if that makes sense. But barring anything else, I think that's where we're sort of going to sit. So Wangani Miller has the captain on him. The reason I've got that is there's narratives around all my captains right now and reasons to or not to pick certain players. Obviously, TDK, we're waiting on the Pitney news. Again, even if Pitney's not picked, I think I'm just going to let it ride. And just if TDK scores well, fantastic. But I just don't have the confidence to put a V or a C on him at this stage. Jordan Dawson plays against GWS. I don't see Toby Bedford going to him, but GWS typically are a hard side to score against anyway, so I'm going to avoid that. Connor Rosie, does Jordan Dawson go to him if he's sitting at halfback or if he's midfield? I just want to see the role for Connor Rosie first. The only midfielder I'm really confident in backing is Brayshaw. I could put the V on a Nick Dacos, which will allow me to use my loop, which could be something that I do, and then I just throw the C on Max Gawn. Andy Brayshaw, I just think Melbourne, there's so much talk about Melbourne in the media right now about how they're playing and the issues with their contested football that I think this game is going to be tough for Fremantle. I'm not saying Fremantle are going to lose, but I don't think Melbourne make it easy, which means, you know, do I see Brayshaw having the ceiling of a 125? Probably not. Do I see him going 90 to 105? That's probably the range where I see for Andy Brayshaw. Nick Dacos tonight, I know Brisbane up at the Gabba is not a great fixture, but I may just throw the VC on him tonight because I know that if he goes and pops off a 115, that I can just take that, move Harry Boyd in potentially. Again, like I don't see Harry Boyd playing and he or Campriali. So at least we'll know if Campriali's named for tonight as well. So if Campo's not named, bang, he goes in. Lindsay comes out, put the emergency on, hit the captain on Campriali, and away we go. So I might end up going that way with Nick Dacos. So that's where my side's at. Forward line pretty much talks for itself. McRae, Smith, Rankin, Daniel, Ashcroft, Davidson. I would love a Jason Horne-Francis in my forward line, and that was my early trade before I realised I could move things around to get Nick Dacos in. I think Dacos this week is a bigger pressing need than Horne-Francis is because I don't think we're going to get Nick Dacos at $1 million for too much longer, whereas with the forward line, there is Chad Warner, there is Christian Petrarca, there is Jason Horne-Francis, there's Dylan Moore. There are options in and around the same price, and I want another week's worth of information. I don't think the Sydney matchup is the best time to buy into Horne-Francis either. I just want to see what this midfield looks like at Port Adelaide with the Butters back fit and firing, with the Ollie Wines in there doing a bit of pinch hitting in the ruck, with Willem Drew, CBA, starting to come back as well because Rosie came out. So I just want to see what the landscape is for Port Adelaide and then see what we can do from there. So the reason Garcia goes is purely money. Between sort of him, Davidson, Hall, you can kind of move any of them at this stage. Davidson, I'm not against selling with a break-even of 26. Again, I do see him probably going a 60, 70 score here against St Kilda, going up that little bit of extra money and then looking at him as a potential upgrade. Next week, it could be a Stone down and a Davidson up in those realms, or a Moraes down and a Davidson up, or a Hall down, Davidson up. So I feel like there are going to be some moves that we're going to be making long-term anyway in the forward line. So I thought, oh, well, let's hit the midfield whilst we can. We've got Levi Ashcroft now moving into that forward line, which as an F5, he could just be set and forget for the rest of the year. He could be a 75 to a 90 guy for most of this season as a first-year player, which would be absolutely fantastic for us. So the other big issue we've obviously got is Tom Stewart. Again, if I hadn't started with bloody Tom Stewart, I could be in such a better spot. We're sitting ranked 4,658. If I went Max Holmes, I'd be close to 2K, I reckon. But anyway, you learn these lessons, and we're going to learn them together, obviously, over the next few years about who we start with. That's probably the only pick that I've regretted. I'm pretty happy with the rest of the side, to be perfectly honest. So we won't know about Tom Stewart until Sunday night, obviously, which is why I've got Luke Traynor, and I don't really want to loop in my defence because I don't want multiple emergencies in my defence because I don't really know how that works. So I'm just going to go with the one emergency, which is going to be Luke Traynor, because if Tom Stewart's laid out, at least I know I'll have Reid, Bice, Traynor, all there, the three defender rooks, which leads me into our first sort of big question this week on the channel. It's been, can you field the three defender rookies? I think you definitely can at this stage. You know, Zach Reid, he's starting to really get amongst the chip game, and I think against West Coast, he's every chance of a big score against the Eagles, with Essendon sort of controlling the ball. Riley Bice, I think we've seen enough of him over these 3 weeks to show that he's going to play. Hard matchup this week against Port Adelaide, but I think he can really do a good job for us. And Luke Traynor is probably the one who's been the most surprising. 3 scores, 70 plus in the last 3 weeks, 6, 4 and 10 marks, really getting his hands on the footy. The ball should be down there a lot against Gold Coast. So I expect him and Short to do really, really well. The other big question I've been getting this week is about the 3 rooks that everyone's talking about. We spoke about it in the trade targets: Cleary, Gross, El Houli. I kind of mentioned it in my other video where it sort of depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for high impact, short term forward, then Cleary is probably number one, because Sydney, great team, great role for the next sort of 4 or 5 weeks whilst Papley's out. But Gross, you can get a locked-in midfielder for a poor side, granted, in West Coast, but his time on ground's only going up. West Coast are probably accepting that their season is on the line. He goes Essendon, which isn't a dreadful matchup, Hawks, which won't be fantastic, but then he goes Melbourne, Richmond, St Kilda, Adelaide. He's going to play, and he's going to play midfield. I've watched his two games, and he's just someone who I'm like, I've got to keep my eye on this guy. He just does good football things. Maybe he doesn't translate to fantasy, but he's not going to get dropped. So from a job security perspective, that's why I lean to Gross. I've gone Gross because I need the cash to get to Dacos. Next week, I'd love to go Hall to Cleary, or Davidson to Cleary, and then Hall to, you know, an upgrade in the forward line, or just whoever is fattened the most, even if it's a Lindsay. I'm going to say it's probably Davidson, because at least with Davidson, yes, you're swapping your F6 to another rook, but you're sort of taking the money off of Davidson and putting it on Cleary, and then you get an upgrade on the other side. So that's sort of what I'm looking at for next week already. But that's where I'm looking. Saad El Houli, we'll know tonight where he's named, I guess, and we'll know tomorrow night if he's the sub. I like what I see, run and dash player, but again, Essendon have players due to come back. I feel like there's a sub risk there with Saad El Houli, so I'm not as keen on that. The other big question I've been getting is Dacos versus Jason Horne-Francis. People don't know where to go. I kind of mentioned it before. I don't think the entry point to a Nick Dacos is going to be this clear again this season. So that's why I'm going Dacos, and I don't like many of the other midfielders in and around him. I like Tom Green, but he's another 100-odd K more expensive, and same with the Merritt. Whereas with Horne-Francis, as I said, you've got Petrarca, you've got a week of Chad Warner to look at, you've got Dylan Moore, you've got Nick Martin, who's a bit more expensive than Horne-Francis. But there are guys there that we can go to if you're not sold on Horne-Francis. So I just want another week of knowledge on the forwards before I commit to who I think is going to be the top 6 forward that I want to bring in to pair up with McRae, Smith, Rankin and Daniel. So that's my thoughts with my side. And that's why I'm going Dacos this week over Jason Horne-Francis. And that's as a Port fan. So if I'm not going Hornet, you know that I really like the Nick Dacos punt because his fixtures over the next few weeks are great as well. He goes Brisbane, Essendon, Geelong, Freo, Crows, North, Hawthorn, Melbourne. What we've seen from Nick Dacos is I think he's just too good. He's too good for the tag. No one's going to lock him down fully. If they start tagging him, he'll just go to half back and he'll start racking it up and get a kick mark game going there. Or he'll go sit at half forward and just work people over the ground. He's just too good. He's too fit. He's too quick. He's too skilky. He's too skillful. He's just a good footballer. And at $1 million, I think you just got to take the footballer there. So it makes my midfield look really stacked with a Dawson, Rosie, Brayshaw, Dacos, but I'm happy to do it. So that's where I'm at with my midfield. What I could actually do next week is if say a Clary's just really starting to frustrate me, and if he's starting to go the wrong direction because his break-even's at 81, we could do a Clary into a forward using utility and getting Ashcroft back into our midfield, something along those lines. So there's options there in order to make that work. The last sort of big player that I've seen in the comments of my videos has been a Ned Long. I've been really anti-Ned Long. Again, he's a good footballer. He's having his little breakout this year. He's been on the list now for about 4 years, I think, and he's really starting to get a run together of playing midfield. But every week there's been reasons to why he's had the usage that he's had. MJ from the coaches panel really broke this down in his video, I think from last night or this morning, where a Perryman's been moved around, Houston's been in and out of the side, Goey's been in and out of the side. There's pieces around that midfield, which is why he's playing so much midfield time. I just think we've kind of missed the boat with him. I know his break-even's 24, but he doesn't have heaps of cash to make, and it's like, where are you going to get him, and then where are you going to from him? I feel like in this upgrade season, you want to just be getting guys locked in that you're going to keep up a minimum to their buy, which Long's not that type of player. I feel like if you bring him in this week, you're going to have to bin him off in 3 weeks anyway when his cash stalls, and he's not going to be a consistent scorer that you're going to want on your side for the next 10 weeks before we get to the buys. So that's just where I'm at with Ned Long. I'm not going to say don't pick him if you think he's value and you want to go, a Finn Callahan down to him to make 200K, then fair enough, go for it. But I think there's better ways to make 200K than getting on a midfielder who's not locked in playing in that midfield, if that makes sense. So that's me covering some of those big points. I haven't spoken about the Jerry, Gawn, Briggs stuff because if you've got premium ruckman, just roll with them. Don't waste trades on your rucks. That's where I'm at. I've been saying that in the comments, but just it's not worth it because next week Jerry might be right off like say an 8-9 day break and then he's fine and he's flying again and you'd be like, oh, what did I get a Briggs for? So I think there's better ways to make that kind of money anyway. So that's my final thoughts. That's my final team locked in. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. The numbers have been fantastic. I'm absolutely loving putting these videos together for you guys. So hopefully you're enjoying being part of this community. And I'll see you guys very, very soon for our videos ahead of round 7.